Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Ehmke.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. We got a lot of cool stuff going on over at Duramaxtuner and Calibrated Power, and our sponsors are involved on some of our projects. Yep. So I wanted to kind of start off the show talking about some cool shit we got going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think for starters, just paint a picture, right, for all the listeners. This is the second week of July, right? So we just got off of the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, today is the 12th.
Yep, we moved into the new building, which we discussed in the last podcast. So we were in the middle of doing all of that. On top of getting almost 3 to 4 sled pull trucks ready for sled pull season in the local ISP events.
Which we're already late to the start.
We're already late to the start. And there's 100 moving pieces going on at once right now.
And it's so much fun.
It is. It's such a blast. My work days go by very quickly. So a lot of notes are taken, a lot of reminders. Like I have these daily to-do tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're filling up.
So I wanted to start us off talking about our sled pull truck. So we're going to start from our lowest horsepower and work our way up.
Awesome. Yeah. So lowest horsepower truck, I would say one of the more exciting ones, in all honesty.
I know, right?
It's a 2017 L5P.
Right.
So,
and anytime we can start the bottom of our list with the least impressive build being a 2017 L5P sled pulling, I feel like we're in good company.
Yeah, I mean, the L5P has definitely got a lot of hype in the industry with the tuning capabilities at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So end of 2018, beginning of 2019, HP Tuners released support for custom tuning. A couple, some various tuners out there are offering support for it, and then you can also do like a simple pressure box. There's some companies out there offering that. But we're talking a stock turbo, stock everything, tune only, 550 wheel horsepower. We're going to set up the suspension and try to, bring it out into
basic supporting. Yeah. So intake, tuning, traction bars. That's all we've done.
Have tuning. Or it doesn't have an intake.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's right.
So
stock
this
intake right now.
This is just a tune-only truck with, some front-end components, some traction bars from, Manfred.
Over at Longhorn.
Longhorn
Fab Shop.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
But, we're really excited, to kind of – there's really no one doing L5P sled pulling right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
especially
really cool.
not emissions-equipped
Exactly. Well,
sled pulling.
I'm confident in that. And there might be one guy here or there doing, the deleted L5P stuff. So it's going to be really exciting to get some data, get the truck into a scenario where it's getting worked, used, abused, and see what it can do against some of the competitors out there.
Absolutely. Chris, I'm on the kind of social media and marketing side of what we do on a day-to-day basis now, and I hear so much people saying things as fact that we're really not sure on. Nobody's really tested.
No.
How hard can you push the emissions equipment? Now, we did Clean Sweep a few years ago.
Yep.
It was an LML, Stealth 64, some basic supporting mods.
Yeah.
And we ran that truck for a whole season. We kicked ass with it. Yeah. It pulled first place several times.
I mean, let's
it was competitive
also throw
in the
out
class.
there that was a 130,000-mile truck when we took possession of it and then modified it to 600-plus wheel horsepower.
Right, and it came in deleted, and we flipped it back to emissions
and we didn't
equipment
put new emissions on there. We had the emissions from that truck that went back on there. That truck
Right.
wasn't deleted for a very long time, for about a year, but that emission system had about 90 to 100,000 on it. So we proved that the model could work. Right?
Sure.
And then over the years, we've done some various, twin turbo setups like the 15 Ram, Matt Rosenberg's LML that made over 700 horsepower emissions equipped.
Yeah. Jamie's LML now that
Jamie's
has the twin
LML
kit
600.
on it. Yep.
So then we'll get right into the next truck now because I think that's the next one.
So now here we are. We're doing another LML.
So one of our mechanics over at Calibrated Power Duramaxtuner, his name is Mike Getchell. He has a 2013 LML, crew cab short bed, and we approached him like, hey, are you interested? Absolutely, he's interested.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, we're shooting for around 700, 650 to 700 emissions equipped with this truck.
Yeah. So let me run you through the build on this one. So, of course, on the top, we have Duramaxtuner tuning. I believe we have them on an EasyLink setup right now. Stealth 67 G2 turbo. So the LML drop-in stock appearing charger. We've tested that charger on other trucks. We've taken it well over 700 horsepower. So we know it's capable there. Of course, we got the Exergy 10 mil CP4. A lot of guys are going to ask me why we didn't swap to a CP3, and it's because we wanted something that was still going to have an EO number, something that was still going to be all emissions equipped and be able to run that 9th injector. Also, we just want to see, hey, we knew there were some core problems with the CP4. Let's take this 10 mil CP4 and see what this aftermarket modded pump can handle, because we are going to push this thing to its max. I believe we got a set of Sportsman Exergy injectors in there, fast 165 lift pump, DT550 transmission. I don't know if you're up to date on this one, Chris. We talked about doing a bigger build on the trans, going to our 750 or maybe even going all out and doing the 1,000 just so it never broke. But the real question was, how far could you push the parts we use in a 550?
Yeah.
What does that setup actually look like for an LML that we're going to use and abuse, not only daily drive, but we're going to sled pull this thing 7 to 10 times this year, or 7 to 10 pulls, which means it might see 2 pulls at each event.
And it's his daily driver.
And and he has to get back and forth to work. He does not have a backup vehicle. So we really wanted to see how far could we take this 550 out. And then, of course, I think he's got some Longhorn traction bars coming in. He's
fast lift pump.
Fast lift pump. A few other little supporting mods in there, front end components, things of that nature, keeping the truck together. So I think that one, I'm really excited to see it come out and kick some ass.
Next truck in the list, this is something that was just in our diesel minutes, right?
Yep.
So we just did that. We talked about it in the last podcast, but it's a 2006 5.9 Cummins. And what's really cool about this is it hosts our Stealth 67. So the truck's been the test bed for our Stealth 67 HE351 and 341 turbo. We made some big numbers, well over 800 wheel horsepower with this, so we can talk about that now.
Yeah.
And it has, Exergy 100 overs, Exergy 12 millimeter pump, Whirly custom fab set us up with some traction bars for that truck, and then of course other supporting mods, valve springs, push rods. It has a motor in it now.
Yep.
Fast lift pump, like I said. So that's going to be. That's going to be a real good contender, I think, in the work stock class, making the power that it's making. And I mean, honestly, Paul, you've popped the hood on this thing. It looks factory as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, it is not one of those where you pop it and everybody says, ooh, and you pop it and everybody's like, so what's done to it?
So when we went to the drag strip with that truck, Ryan, the Worley brothers, right?
Yep.
Ryan and Jason were there, and the truck just clicked off an 1130 pass. And we get back, and Ryan Worley comes up, looks under the hood, he's like, that's a stock turbo. Like, he was impressed that it wasn't impressive, So it was just really cool, to see, there's a lot of other companies now that are doing a lot of these stock appearing turbochargers because they work.
Yeah.
There's a splash in the market. Guys are starting to show some interest. That factory fitment and that plug and play drop in, like, hey, I'm a badass, can make some respectable power. Like, that's a real thing, guys. Making power is one thing, but making that power drivable is something completely different. And that's, there's certain companies that have been pushing that for a while, and you'll see that firsthand now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited for that one. And then this one, I think, is kind of going to be the reveal here. We really haven't announced this anywhere else outside of the company.
4-year reveal, right?
So we've been building hype for this slowly. The truck. Where to even start?
Let's just do this. We call the truck Razorback. So we're just going to go there. No one knows what's going on right now.
Okay, so Razorback originally came in
either way.
I think it was Silverback.
Same
originally
thing,
came in as a cabin chassis with a flatbed on it.
Well, we bought the truck for cabin chassis development.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly. And so it was our test truck on the CME platform or CMD.
Yep.
CMD. It's a 12
or 11,
right?
but yep.
Yeah, 11 or 12. And it was around the shop, God, for a good year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, somebody had this crazy idea. Hey, you know what this thing really needs is not a 6.7, not a stroker motor, but a straight up ISL.
That's stroked.
Ended up deciding, okay, so we need to stroke that, then do triple S500s, then do, I don't even know, 250s? I don't even know the size of the injectors.
I don't think anyone knows.
Anyone knows.
But what it is it's we deemed the truck the UCC truck, and we planned on competing with it a couple years ago. 2 days before the event, we scattered the block.
Yeah.
Sent 2 rods through the block, broke the cam into 100 pieces. The girdle took a beating. I mean, the motor nothing was salvageable.
Wrecked.
So we were like, yeah, you know what? We'll take it next year. What happened the following year? Still didn't run. Still in pieces.
Yeah.
The following year, we finally got it up and running, and then we were just like, you know what? Like, we're gonna do some expedition hooks.
Yep.
We're gonna keep it local. We want to drive it on the street. There's a lot of labor invested into this. Like I've said before in other builds, there's money, but then there's time. And money you're not going to get back, but time you're sure as hell not going to get back. So we want to drive it on the street. So let's go through the build now. So it's an ISL.
Yep,
right?
8.9 liter.
8.9 liter. It's got some badass John Deere billet rods in her.
Yeah.
So a lot of custom machine work in the block to get those rods in there and be happy with clearances and what have you. Some head work, side draft. I mean, just the engine itself is just ridiculous.
There's been a lot of a lot of big swings taken, I'll say, on the engine build. And then we get into some of the core components. Like I said, 250-ish injectors. I don't think we really have a handle on that.
I think they're bigger than that. Personally, I'm not sure.
Well, because and I don't know. So anyway, it doesn't really matter.
But it doesn't. The thing is,
dual 14
it's
mil
a bigger
pumps.
Injector, right? It's already a bigger injector that's been modified. So it's not like, oh, well, my 5.9 or my 6.7 has this. We're not in the same ballpark, guys.
Right.
2 14-millimeter pumps, 1 normal rotation, 1 reverse rotation on a belt. So there is no pump off of the front of the motor, like front cover.
Yeah.
In a crazy triple turbo setup from Worley. 3 S591s, 3 of them, not 1, 2, but 3, and they fit very, very well in the engine bay.
It is insane to see this truck with a hood. This is one where you lift the hood and you just say, "What the fuck?"
What? Yeah, and then a full like 5 or 6 inch exhaust. Like I think parts of it is 5 or 6. I'm not sure honestly.
Yeah,
but it's just insane, and it's a long bed conversion, so it's longer than a
10-foot
factory
bed.
long bed.
Yeah,
and it's just massive, man. This thing is not a drag truck.
Right.
This thing is not like go on the street, whack it, and like, oh my god, like the torque is gonna get you scared.
Yeah.
But this is like a dedicated like badass sled pull truck that we're really excited to kind of get our feet wet with.
And that's it, man. So we didn't take the power all the way up. This is a question I had right away. I was like, hey, we all know this thing. I mean, when we scattered the block, it was 3,000 foot-pounds of torque.
Yep.
Just to put that out there. So we know we don't want to take it to that level. We also know you can't actually apply that much power in the dirt.
This was also at like 1,700 RPM that it made 3,000 foot-pounds. So, talk about the impressiveness of what the efficiency of that engine and turbochargers are. But, I mean, it made torque down low like it was nobody's business.
Yeah. And then, of course, we also like I said, now we've had a chance to dyno it. We've brought the power level down a little bit via the tuning. We're going to keep it a little bit more conservative there, try to stay competitive with the class. It's also kind of a wild class. So there's not a ton of rules. We're actually going to pull this in Worley's class. It's called the Hot Street Diesel with ISP, Illini State Pullers. Guys, this is going to be a wild show. I believe that truck will be out. It's August 1st, a Thursday in Oregon, Illinois. We'll be reporting back to you from the event, give you guys some good audio of what it's like, how it goes down, and probably interview Nick, who I believe is going to be piloting that truck post-event.
One of the things that we've talked about in prior years within the organization is, getting a staff right within the organization that wants to go to these things. And I think, we left it up to the staff, like, hey, are you guys interested? Who wants to do this? Who doesn't want to do this? And we'll have some people that are there for support, periodically, I guess.
Sure.
But I think we have what I'd consider the dream team. We have a couple guys that are willing to go out there, producer Justin, you, myself, a couple of the guys that are in the tuning department, in the customer service department, and in the sales department, and then Nick is on board for this stuff. So, I'm really excited to kind of see how the team does outside of the 9 to 5 to kind of execute these plans, because we're going to have to leave work early. There's going to be late nights coming back home where we still have to show up to work the next day. Some of the weekends are going to get eaten up. I'm not much of a sled puller, just be very upfront with you. I like going to these things, but...
Well, that's funny because I got you piloted. I got you piloting MAV.
I already have test practice coming your way in a local farm field near you. But, I've sled pulled a couple times in the past, my truck, and... Brett Kell, the gentleman that had that, he has that 03 or whatever the
regular
cabin
cab short bed.
The regular cab short bed. He had a high country that we used for sled pulling at a 15 LML at the time. So, I mean, I've done it a few times. Yeah. So, practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect at anything. So, just see time. So we'll see. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
I love it, man. Yeah. That is something that I'm really excited for. And a lot of these trucks, I think some of the cool stuff, too, is we're going to be doing a lot more testing.
Yes.
So we're going to be sharing that data with our fans, with the diesel industry, telling people, hey, man, look, here's the emissions equipment. Here's how it held up. Yep. Here's the Cummins. Here's all the stats that we watch on the Cummins, and same thing across the board.
I think not making this a sales pitch or anything like that. I want to keep that out of this, but a lot of times guys will call in, like end users, or potential customers, when they're inquiring about tuning, delete versus keeping emissions on, or what turbocharger to go with. This is the data that we sell on. This is the data that we collect that allows us to develop parts and understand where these parts have their limiting factor. For an example, taking a 550 DT550 trans and pushing it to almost 700 horse and then working it, or taking a Stel 67 that, for the 5.9 Cummins, we are pushing it. We've already got track times. We have street miles on it. We have dyno pulls on it. And now we're going to get sled pull runs on it
Yeah.
and really work the charger through all these vigorous different, workloads.
Abuse.
Yeah.
We are going to abuse it.
So, we are testing these components to make sure that the product that does get presented into the market is the best of our ability. And we're always going to improve on that. But we take that data and collect on it ahead of time.
Absolutely. And hey, guys, so do our sponsors, and that's why we work with them. Big shout out to Exergy Performance and Exergy Engineering, and big shout out to WC Fab and WC Powder Coating.
Yeah.
These guys, they really kick ass. This is why we work with them, is these guys are involved on these projects. These guys get behind us. These guys want the data too. And they're doing the similar situations on their products. They're pushing their products to the limits as well.
What was really exciting, just a little, inside scoop, right? So Randy from Exergy had called in yesterday and we were talking. And I talk to Randy a couple times a year. Me and Randy, I deal with the sales guys over there. More importantly, I don't deal with the owner of the business. And he starts asking me about the podcast, and downloads, and he was really excited. He goes, yeah, last year you guys were talking about, doing another project like Clean Sweep. What do we have to do to get involved? We have products that we want to test. We want to run some things through the ringer. We want to work with you. So it's like that's the support that, companies within the organization or within the industry, they like to work together because they help us, we help them.
Exactly.
And it's all about data collection. It's all about moving forward.
Yeah, man. And hey, a place that Justin, our producer, and I saw a lot of data collection was over at Diesel Power Challenge when we were there at the beginning of June. We know you guys really seem to love those episodes where we covered the competition, and we promised you during that time that we'd get some of these competitors back on the show for more in-depth interviews to really run through their whole weekend. Our producer, Justin, and I were talking about, man, Brad Sankey is a guy that we've worked with personally. I like Brad a lot. He's from our neck of the woods.
He's a good
guy. We've worked with his truck in-house. So we got him on right away. We got KJ on because we wanted to talk to the man who's spearheading Diesel Power Challenge.
Yeah, he's good people.
Yeah,
he is really a good dude. Both of them,
but
sure.
If you want to talk about a dude who saw absolutely every challenge you can fucking imagine at DPC and still had a smile on his face, was still a blast to be around, and I don't think he slept for 3 days, then we're talking about Matt Maier. Let's do it. Let's kick off. The Calibrated Power presents our special guest. Here's Matt Maier from DPC 2019. All right, guys, and now it's time for your favorite portion of the show. It's the Calibrated Power presents our special guest, and this week we have a really special guest. Guys, you asked for a Ford guy. You asked for 7.3 love. You asked for somebody who knew about power and had experience in performance. I couldn't think of anybody better than Matt Maier. Matt, how the hell are you?
Oh, pretty good. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Matt, you went out and kicked ass at DPC 2019. Justin and myself got to see you really do things we didn't think were going to happen with that truck.
Yeah, for sure.
Over the entire week. I'd love you to kick us off. Run us through just kind of the overview of what was it like to be at Diesel Power Challenge.
I mean, it's been kind of one of those things I've been pushing to do for a while. Just trying to get in on it, and I tried to get in on it a few years ago, and it just didn't happen. And when I, got my name called there, it was pretty awesome, pretty surreal. And then to actually, go out there to Colorado and compete with a whole bunch of Common Rail guys, and try to, show that 7.3 stuff, it's old technology, and it doesn't make quite as much power. It takes a lot more, to get there, but being able to push it and try to make it, work was really fun. You said, what you said, I mean, I pretty much got my ass kicked out there, though, to be honest, or kicked my own ass. So on the dyno, one mistake kind of led to a chain of events the entire week, basically. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, let's dissect it a little bit here, because the first day is when it blew my mind. Justin, I think you got our results page here.
Yeah, yep.
I am looking at the MPG testing. Where did you go? What order did you line up on the dyno that first day for the efficiency and drivability challenge?
On that one, I think, and I can't remember exactly, but I think I was towards the end. So, I mean, I was either dead last or second to last. So I was one of the tail end guys so I basically waited all day and watched everybody, do what they did all day, and then was last to roll in. So
that's how I had it in my memory as well. But what happened was he came out on top. And
Yeah.
And actually, if I remember correctly, they weren't sure exactly how much fuel you used, but they rounded up to 0.1.
Right. Well, it was one of those things. KJ had been telling us, the entire time, strategy. So, and with the 7.3, I mean, pretty much strategy was my only hope to do really well. Bar the truck does do pretty good. I just had to kind of think smart when I did things, or at least I was trying to think smart. So we ended up, on the mile per gallon test, you can fill the truck up. So, I mean, I filled the truck up all the way up into the filler neck, everything. So, when they're trying to fill it up after the test is done, they're not going to get any more fuel in there because we didn't use enough to make it, different. So that was kind of a strategy on our end, and I just had to, try to do that run with no mistakes. And, gosh, somehow I pulled it off, even though when I rolled off the dyno, I was about cross-eyed staring at those stupid lines, trying to keep it in there. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. But that's how we ended up, doing so well, with the 7.3. It was more strategy than anything. And, I did put it on a tune that was, light, not heavy fuel or anything. So we were just trying to do our best to, conserve it and do what we could. So, yeah.
Sure. Now, obviously, that's not a test anybody can really prepare for. It's a pretty grueling test. It runs a wide range of acceleration, a wide range of having to operate the truck. Yeah. How did your truck respond? Because I know in the past years, we had a lot of guys getting hot and a lot of guys getting hot trans temps, hot coolant temps. How'd the 7.3 hold up?
Well, my truck is a single 467.7 Borg-Warner Charger, and it's got the 83 turbine in it. So it's on the small side, technically, compared to everybody else. So I didn't have any problems bringing the truck alive. Even at elevation, it was coming up pretty quick. That wasn't, a whole lot of the issue, I guess. The truck stayed cool. It never really got hot. I mean, I drive this truck every day, so literally take my kids to school with it, tow trailers. It doesn't just sit and, go to races and then get put away sort of a thing. I use it, so I've kind of, over the years, been able to, dial it in to make sure stuff does stay cool, doesn't get hot with the setup, on normal driving. So that part of it, we weren't too worried about. But, boy, on the outside looking at that thing, it looks no big deal, You're in there, just stay between the lines. And then when you're actually in the driver's seat, yeah, it's way worse than it looks. So, way harder. So...
I got you there. All right, diving into the dyno. Justin, where did he come out on the dyno? What was the final combined number?
Looks like 2,761.9.
Okay, yeah, they round it to the 10th there. They were not playing.
Yeah, yeah. I guess so.
It can matter. You had mentioned early on you had a problem on the dyno. Like I said, it wasn't on day one. Must have been on day two. I do remember this, and listeners, you can go back to listen to some of our previous episodes. You and I talked right after, I think, while you guys were in the parking lot, still working on the early stages of diagnostics. Walk us through it, man. How did it happen? What happened? And where'd you go from there?
Well, we got put on the dyno there. When we first rolled on, we made our first pull. And our first pull, I hit the nitrous just like I normally do. Brought it on pretty quick, but not too quick because I was trying to make a pretty big torque number. And I had my foot to the floor, and the truck cut out. It just stopped. So I didn't know what was going on, so I let out of it, obviously. And everything was fine. I think it made 860, or I'm sorry, 896 or something like that. It was close to 900 horse, but what had actually happened was it blew the map sensor line off. So it just cut fuel, as I'm making power. So didn't even get to do a full run there. So we thought, hey, let's fix that, put that back on, and just do one more pull. So, and yeah, that was the big mistake, I guess. When we did the second pull, I got a little excited. So it was all on me, but I got a little excited on the button. I hit the button too early, and it wasn't making enough boost to basically, come up. So the cylinder pressure spiked like crazy, and it ended up. What we thought was a blown head gasket at first. It popped real loud. And then once we got it off the dyno, when I was talking to you, we still thought it was a head gasket. So we ended up rolling the truck, into ATS there. They let us have a bay. We pulled a head off, found the gasket obviously was definitely bad. Started cleaning some of the oil and stuff out of the cylinders, from the hydraulic injection that basically when you pull that stuff, it just drains in the cylinders. So at first we didn't even know anything else was wrong. And then we started cleaning the stuff up to get it prepped to put a head gasket back on, and we found a piston cracked all the way through. So, yeah. So we knew we were in for a longer night than we expected at that point. And I guess, we just kept messing with the truck. We ended up pulling the motor out of the truck there at ATS. We flipped it over, pulled the pan, pulled that piston out, piston and rod out. And then we proceeded to look at the other side, and it also had a blown head gasket and the cracked piston. So we ended up doing 2 head gaskets, 2 pistons. We had to file fit a Perillo rod because the piston kind of scalded it a little bit on that top bushing. So we actually used a box knife, and I'm sure people cringe, but a box knife on the end to kind of carve it out so we get the wrist pin back in it. So,
Jesus.
yeah.
Matt, how long were you guys at ATS wrenching that night?
Well, I mean, we were number 1 or 2.
Okay.
On the dyno, I can't remember. We were in the top couple on the dyno there, so which was kind of an advantage because we did have that issue. So we were able to get started that day, and I mean, we probably started working on it. If I recall, it was around 11 or so, and then I didn't leave ATS. We had the motor finally put back in the truck around 4 o'clock the next morning, or 3 o'clock the next morning. Excuse me. So, and it was just started, like no accessories, nothing hooked up. In the midst of us putting that motor back in, when we had pulled it out, I had a head off. And when you have one of the heads off, you can twist that motor around in that engine bay a lot easier. So when I go to put it back in, I had both heads on, obviously. Everything's ready to go. And I forgot. We have to pull the water pump off the front of the motor, long story short. So basically, I pulled the water pump off the front of the motor. As soon as I pulled the water pump off the front of the motor, there's a huge crack in the water pump, like in the front cover, excuse me. So it had a piece of head gasket material trapped, and it must have popped the front cover. So that was the point. It was probably 1 o'clock in the morning there, and that was the point when we were almost ready to give up because, the front cover on a 7.3, you've got to remove the entire pan. You got to take apart what we just put back together, basically.
Oh, my God.
Back to square one. So we ended up JB welding the front cover. So, and we put 2 cans of Blue Devil sealant in there, and that's when we set it back in there about 3 o'clock. We made sure the truck, was running, and I just didn't put a water pump on. I let that thing set up for a few more hours. I think we woke up at 6:30, the next morning from the hotel, and ran back over there real quick, and I was trying to get it together for the actual drag race at that point. So,
yeah, that's the exact drag race prep I would expect.
yeah,
from a 7.3. No, just kidding. No, I cannot believe you guys pushed that hard to get the truck out there. And then here's the thing: it showed up and it performed. So we kicked off the next morning at Bandimere Speedway with the trailer tow racing. Thank you, Justin. Absolutely. Where did he come in trailer tow racing?
Looks like he placed 7th.
Placed 7th. Okay, but it was a 7.3 racing a trailer with a JB welded front cover, and literally what a 15-hour turnaround time on a complete rebuild.
Yeah. How nervous were you?
Yeah. Extremely. The only break-in time we had on that thing was driving from ATS to the track. That was it. So we didn't have any, nothing on it. It had new head gaskets. We just put injectors back in. It still hadn't even worked the air out of the system on the high-pressure oil system. So, it was all acting kind of a fool and giving me a little bit of trouble. It wouldn't stay running quite right. They just had air in the system. I think we got some debris in an IPR. Anyway, it was all kinds of stuff giving us all kinds of fits. So when they finally let me hook to the trailer there, because they did vote me in to do it last, which was awesome. So we were able to get in there and last minute hook on. I took off very tentatively. I had all the plans in the world of really hitting it hard before I captured the night before. So, but. And my team was like, yeah, no nitrous. So okay, no nitrous. And so we went out and we ran it, and I just kind of eased it out of the hole and kind of laid into it real slow. And then right towards the end, I went ahead and fed her a little bit of nitrous. So, 'cause I can't help myself. So it felt really good. It was pulling nice and easy. We definitely could have done better there, but man, I was really tentative. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to hurt it at the first event coming back. So
I think that even plays back to the
good.
strategy, though, right? Is that's a part of it, is keeping the truck alive, and especially after you just put all of that effort,
Right.
hours, and all of those resources into getting this thing back up and running. You'd be a fool to run out there and run 100 shot of nitrous off the line with a trailer behind you. Like, it wouldn't make any sense, because you clearly don't need to just constantly work on it. But I believe after the trailer tow races you guys refined, you pretty much just let it sit and then got it back out for qualifying, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we didn't really touch it. We let it cool all the way off and made sure it was. We actually had to, at that point we were actually starting it on brake cleaner, so because it wouldn't spin enough RPMs. Like I said, I think we had an IPR issue. It had a little piece of debris in it. You know, wasn't really shocked considering we weren't the cleanest trying to throw it back together, so there's stuff all over the place in that motor. But anyway, so we would have to let it cool off, and then it would start up by itself. But if it was warm at all, we'd have to use a little brake clean to get it a little more RPM, make the high pressure won't work. So yeah, but we didn't really have to do any work on it, so to speak, until qualifying, until after I ran my first qualifying pass again.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is qualifying seemed to just eat people alive. I don't know what it is about the idea of an open track where there's not a guy next to you, but I think in your case, didn't you and Seth run like the first qualifying pass, the two of you?
Well, yeah, and that was a strategy on our end, because we wanted to go ahead and get a qualifying run in, and then if we needed to work on the truck, we'd have time. So because we already knew we had some little issues, we were thinking we were going to have to pull IPRs, you know, just mess with it a little bit. So we wanted to get out there, get a good solid pass in, and then, you know, we'd be able to sit back and kind of see where we are on the ladder after that, after we wash the trucks. But of course, yeah, that didn't happen. I've been racing for a long time. I race in the ODSF, so and I just race an index class. It's just 770. It's nothing super crazy fast, but it's consistent. The truck's always been very consistent there. So, you know, doing the tree and leaving quick and everything else, I had a little bit of an advantage there, I thought, over some other guys. So I was trying to, you know, try to show that off, I guess, and see what would happen. But that first pass, it put me back in my place for sure. So went out there. Launched pretty lazy, really, because the elevation really screws us. Yeah, once again, it's like, yeah, you can launch at 10 pounds of boost here at sea level, and you get up there and you launch at 10 pounds of boost, and you should have launched at 20. You know, I mean, it's just like it falls on its face pretty quick. Yeah. So we did that, launched. It came out of the hole good. It caught the first stage of nitrous, which is just a little 70 jet. So it caught the 70 jet. It started to pick up pretty good. And then I have a 110 on a button in the truck. So I hit the 110 about, I don't know, half track or so, and it jerked and hesitated the whole truck. So I let out of everything, and then kind of looked stuff over real quick, and then just hit it again, put my foot back in the throttle, excuse me, and was just like, screw it, you know, we're already on a pass, let's make this happen. And I don't know what it ran. I think it was only a 12.6 or something with me letting out of it and get back in it. But at the very end, I just heard this huge bang. And I thought, well, there's that piston that we carved. You know, there's that piston. So, yeah, actually pulled the truck over off the side of the track, got out, kind of looked to make sure I wasn't leaking all over the place. And there was no oil or anything on the ground, so I went ahead, and the truck was still running. So I went ahead and cruised off to the side of the track, and yeah, that's when kind of all hell broke loose. When I pulled off to the side of the track, I was just cruising down, and the truck started getting faster and faster, and I'm on riding the brakes. So I'm like, okay, something's wrong. So I hit the key, throw it into neutral, and it's still trying to run away. So pretty much at that point, I knew it was kind of feeding itself its own oil.
Yeah.
And, yeah, what had happened is I pulled the filter off, and I was able to shut the whole truck down with, you know, like I said, it was a Girl Scout cookie box or something I had in the back seat. I threw it over the intake cover. So, I mean, it's sitting there screaming at, you know, 5,000 RPM trying to run the whole motor away that we just put back together, and I'm panicking trying to figure out what to do. Yeah, so that's all I had a hold of, and it was actually the perfect freaking size. I threw it against the intake, and it shut the whole truck down. So I was able to save the motor.
God damn.
And the actual compressor wheel from the turbocharger was in the air filter. It actually shot it out. It dented our stainless, you know, 4-inch inlet pipe. It dented that stainless pipe really bad, and then actually almost tore its way out of the cylinder itself. If I didn't have anything on there, that sucker would have shot out the hood. So
Jesus.
it was it was pretty aggressive. Yeah. So anyway, we ended up having that sort of a problem, and I guess even with the time we ran, which was pretty slow for what the truck usually does, but we ended up qualifying, but we just didn't have enough time to get another turbo. We had another turbo, but we just didn't have enough time to get it swapped on. So before the first call. So yeah, unfortunately.
It was so insane to see this happen from sitting up in the media tower.
Yeah.
I know Justin and I were up there, and we're watching all the trucks launching, and we're talking about it. Next thing we know, you can just see smoke billowing at the end of the track, and from where we were at, you couldn't see which truck it was. And we just saw the two dinosaurs roll down the track next to each other lazily. And I'm like, what the hell could have happened? Like, they were running 12 and 13-second passes. Like, what is going on? And then I remember you getting towed back on a tow strap in the truck, just holding up the compressor wheel.
Yeah, right as you went by.
yeah. Well, I figured everybody was wondering what the heck happened, so I just kind of held it up, and I knew most of the guys in the group knew exactly what was going on at that point. With, feeding itself its own oil, trying to run the truck away. I just had to do some quick thinking, I guess. Was it. So,
Under your best conditions with the truck, what's the fastest quarter mile time you've put up?
11:0. So
Okay.
11:0
Nice.
at what was it? 11:0 at 123. So yeah. So it's been deep in the 11s before. Those guys are running high 10s at elevation though. I mean, legitimately, I didn't have a hope of beating them. I could have maybe killed them off the line, and that was kind of the strategy. And then tried to pick it up towards the end, but 10-second trucks, I can't really touch that.
Sure.
So, almost, but not at elevation. I was hoping to run mid-11s was my goal. So up there. Yeah.
Well, hey, still put on a great show. Like you said, didn't get to make it into the tree, but hey, still grab some points, moving throughout the
Qualified for the tree.
Exactly, qualified to get into the bracket. And then next thing we did that day, God, that was a long day. Next thing we did was
that was the end was after the racing, and then he had the cone course, right? Was the next day?
Yeah, cone course.
Right.
It was the same day.
Yeah.
And then
because we did
course
3
was the
events
same
that day.
Yeah,
That's right. Cone course, brutal, man. Fastest cone course they've ever put together. 2 300-foot sections with straightaways, and a 150-foot tapered reverse in pretty much a straight shot that you had to angle and swoop into. So it wasn't like last year with the long reverse where you like naturally would pull forward and then just back straight up. This one you had to wiggle the truck and the trailer to get back into the tapered reverse.
Also, you just literally had to put another turbo back on the truck, and the thing was literally right after the races, which went fast.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, and keep in mind, when the turbo blew, it filled the entire intercooler system, everything up with oil. Everything is completely full of motor oil. I mean, 4 gallons worth of motor oil is, what it took. I mean, it almost killed the complete engine, like I said. It took, maybe 3.5 gallons, but it was a ton of oil. We actually drained out of the intercooler. We had to drill a hole in my brand new Spearco intercooler in the end tank, and then we pulled a plug off of something, and we plugged it there in the parking lot after we pulled it. So it was still kind of smoking and like blue smoke everywhere. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. So
we were very shocked to see you at the cone course.
That's what I was going to say is when we started looking around up at the cone course, I was like, man, there's no way we're going to see Matt, I think was one of the quotes I had. And then all of a sudden I turn around and you're parked there, and I'm like, oh, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, what about this poor truck? Came out and put it down, man. Didn't come in last place, if I remember correctly.
No, he finished 4th.
4th overall in the cone course with a truck that's been rebuilt, that ran away, that had an exploded turbo, and out in the hot sun. I mean, it was 85, 90 degrees at whatever, a mile of elevation up the entire day. What'd that feel like just going into the cone course?
Well, that cone course is one of those things, again, I've been nervous about the cone course ever since I found out I was going to DPC. So that was the event that I was most nervous about. And the only reason being is, I mean, I back trailers, but they're goosenecks. And that is a tag trailer. And, I'm sure you guys know as well as I do, there is a complete difference in the way stuff moves between the two. So I hadn't towed a tag trailer in probably 10 years, to be quite honest. The week before DPC, I actually borrowed a tag trailer threw my rock crawler up on it, and I practiced backing up and down my driveway just so I could try to get a feel for it, again. But going into that, I have a shift box that I build for the trucks, with E4ODs, 40100s, and it allows you to change gears manually, so I don't have to depend on tuning. So, like, sled pulling, drag racing, everything, I'm basically controlling the way the converter's locking, when it's shifting, all that. So I had that box sitting in the truck, and one of the strategies I was going to do with the cone course is, yes, it was a little bit long, but it wasn't, like, crazy. I didn't need high range, so I actually put it in low range. So to try to, pick up quick and go, which would have been great, but I left my actual manual controller box in manual mode. So when I launched, it was just rev limiter for steer low range. So, and I was trying to figure out what I had done, and I had to reach down and shut the box off and turn it back to the computer and let the, computer do the trans shifting. And then finally, when it did that, it shifted good, but that was like literally going into that first corner, and it kind of threw me off, and I think that's when I actually took out a couple of cones. So maybe one cone, I can't even remember, but I was so distracted by that, that it kind of freaked me out. And that 90-degree, not 90-degree, but that big long back was, crazy. You had to swing basically wide, or I did. I swung wide to the left and kind of pulled the nose in, so I had the trailer kind of positioned in a manner it would back into it a lot easier. And it was kind of nerve-wracking backing up through there. And then I ended up coming around, got through that, didn't hit any cones, made it through the rest of it, didn't hit any cones, got to where you're backing it in there in the final finish. And, my truck's the old body style, but I've got an actual 79 Dana 60 in the front of that thing. So it turns like a tractor. I mean, it does not cut the wheels like a new truck would. So I struggled to get that stupid trailer back into the dang last cones because I couldn't get it to turn sharp enough, I guess, to not keep the trailer from jackknifing. So it took me like 3 tries to get it into there, but we ended up making it into there. And, I was just glad to finish. I was just glad we were trying to hit every single event, Yeah, I mean,
get me off this course.
The whole strategy, the whole week, and heck, the whole month coming up to it was just be consistent and make every event. That was our whole goal the entire time, me and the team. So, and man, I made it hard on us by causing some issues. So yeah.
Hey, your guys' crew always in high spirits, always laughing and joking, even through the toughest spots and through some of the catastrophic problems. And you guys always bounce back, and that's what everybody at the event talked about. That's what everybody who had anything to do with DPC 2019 noticed, was you guys just had this killer attitude about, we're here to have fun, we're here to be competitive. And to be honest with you, when I saw this old body style 7.3 roll in, I chuckled. I was like, oh, this is what I call the fan favorite, right? It's like
very yes,
right.
Yes.
Like this is a truck that I'm not looking to be in a top spot. And then you come out, and every event you may not have been in the top 3 on every single event, but it goddamn looked like you were going to be. Like it was competitive throughout the event, and it was very consistent to see you guys show up and struggle through some of those challenges.
I mean, even through the sled pull, you guys still threw it down. It was shocking.
Man, the sled pull.
It was a rough course. It was definitely a rough track. We see these tracks all the time. That was a rough track.
Yeah, Matt. Now, how much sled pull experience do you have?
I mean, I've pulled before, so not recently. Again, it's probably been 8 years or something. So I've pulled that. I've had that truck for forever. So, but I pulled it with some guys just. Actually Steve, one of my guys who was there helping me out, he's a big sled puller. So he pulled for years and years and years a 7.3. So that was one of the big reasons of bringing him on, was to help with that. And he's lives not too far from me, so I'm able to con him into helping me work on the truck all the time. But so we had pulled before. I just hadn't pulled recently because every freaking time I hook that thing to a sled, I break something. Every time. So I just, sled pulling and me don't go together very well. So.
Didn't you break the yoke at this track too?
Yeah, well, you see, we made a mistake. Yeah, I broke everything, man. We made a mistake, and we strapped the front of the truck down trying to, eliminate some hop, because normally if we hang weight, the truck won't hop. If the weight's out in front of that truck, it doesn't hop. But I pulled it before without weights, and it hopped. So we were trying to get rid of that hop. You know, and it's one of those things I didn't test beforehand because I knew, you know, testing sled pulling, it just leads to breaking and me having to work on the truck. So we just kind of, you know, when we made it to that event, we were just like, screw it. We're going to see how it does. And coming out of the hole, I came out of the hole, you know, decently hard, and it started hopping, so I let out of it. And if you let out of it before 100 feet, you can back up, and they'll let you redo it. So I just tried to, I was trying strategy there, so I just kind of came out real soft the next time and just kind of went through the gears real slow. As soon as I locked the converter, though, it started hopping again. And at that point, I said, screw it, and I just put it to the floor and hit the nitrous. So I was like, whatever, break it. So.
I mean, you threw down, I think it was 155.
Yeah. That's what we had on the record. Okay, tough pull.
Not my proudest moment.
But man, it looked good.
I mean, honestly, the fact that was the last thing, and you were there and you did it, and I'm still shocked. The whole weekend, the whole week, I was just like, he's back.
Yeah, like the Terminator, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
for real.
Glutton for punishment. It's just my crew. I mean, without my crew there, the guys that I picked. You know, Jake from Maier Diesel, Chuck from Dorsey, and then Steve, like I said, he's my buddy who lives down the road. Without those three guys, you know, pushing me towards the end of that first night when we had that trouble, or second night when we had all that trouble, you know, the truck might have not have made it. But, boy, yeah, all of us, we get along really well. And like you said, you know, we can joke about things and brush things off. And, yeah, I think it just all worked out in the end. You know, we worked together really well, and that was what made it, so, to the end. So. For sure.
It was awesome, man. Matt, we appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story more in depth with our listeners and letting them find out more.
The other was, it was funny. Didn't we see him driving his truck on our way to the airport?
Yeah, I mean,
you were towing with your truck.
When Matt says he uses the truck every day, he uses the goddamn truck every day,
kidding. Even
on the way home after this insane beating. What the hell?
You know, I don't know. I'm retarded, I guess. I don't know. I was sitting there in the parking lot, and my buddy Steve, who's riding, you know, pretty much all the way home with me, we've been talking about doing this all week. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tow the 6.7, because I got a nice King Ranch 6.7, you know. That tow's really nice. It's a beautiful truck. It has air-conditioned seats, and it's comfortable. And, yeah, here I am hooking up the OBS to the gooseneck after we swapped the yoke, because I did have a yoke spare. So so we swapped the yoke on, and so I hooked up to the gooseneck in the parking lot and put the 6.7 on the trailer. And this whole time, my buddy Steve is just shaking his head like, what are you doing? Kind of a moron, aren't you? And yeah, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, we ended up towing the 6.7. We didn't make it all the way home. I got into Kansas, and my IPR issue finally reared its head, and the truck just wouldn't stay running anymore. So we ended up having to throw it up on the trailer. So the rest of it was 6.7. But it was funny to see that picture online with you guys in the rearview mirror with my truck there. I was like, yeah.
We're in an Uber on the way to the airport, and we're coming up in traffic, and I'm like, hey, is that Matt Maier? I'm like, we get up closer. I'm like, it is fucking Matt. Why is he towing with this thing? What the? I'm like, and at this point, I'm scrambling for my phone, and like on my way to the airport, everything's in my backpack. So I'm like digging through my phone and yelling at Justin, who's 6 inches away from me. So I'm like yelling, like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah, man. When I saw that, I was like, that was my favorite competitor. Right then, I solidified. I was like, he may not have won, but that is my favorite guy in this competition.
Yeah, man, we had an absolute blast out there. KJ, Diesel, they put on an awesome show. So I mean, that was one of the best times I've ever had with the truck. Even though we had all of our troubles, I don't excuse me, I don't really regret anything about it. So it was great. All the competitors were super awesome, and yeah, it was really, really fun. I'm gonna miss being able to do that, for a while now. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, hey, maybe you'll get a chance to come back and spectate. I know you can't compete for a little while here per the rules, but we're, again, just so glad to see you out there. So glad to have you come on the show. Anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
I mean, really just my sponsor, the guys who helped me. Chuck Dorsey, he's the one who builds my transmissions. We had no transmissions issues the entire time. It was flawless. So, he built a great transmission. Steve, my guy, he's basically my machinist, my neighbor, so that came with me. Jake with Irate Diesel. I mean, everything on that truck's pretty much, Irate Diesel parts. It's Pro gauges. They hooked me up with some gauges a while ago that really helped me figure stuff out. Banks as well. Banks' gauge was phenomenal. Like, I absolutely love that gauge setup that they gave, all the competitors, or, had us retrofit. So, AMSOIL was awesome. They were there to hook me up with the oil when I needed it, after it ate all of it. So, and then, full force diesel, they built the injectors specifically for this event. They were a little special set that we did just to try to get a little bit of an advantage. So, I mean, all those guys, helped me out and got me to where we were. And, one premature push of the nitrous button kind of almost screwed the entire event up for us, but we were able to overcome. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, guys, if you want to follow along and see more about what Matt's up to with this 7.3, he's posting, pretty much broken shit all the time. We just checked your Facebook page. What the hell did you just break?
What the hell?
And I guess that's part of the thing. Me and my daughter, we do rock crawling. So we've got a rock crawler. It's an Explorer on solid axles with a doubler case in it. And we went to Adventure Off-Road Park, which is just close here in Tennessee. We went there to do some off-roading, and we split the tail housing on the transmission. So that's what that piece was. So, yeah. And like I said, that's one of those things where, we kind of got the drive from was I've been off-roading for years, and when you're in the woods, you got to fix stuff and get out. So when it came to fixing pieces and parts on the truck like we did, it was, not that big of a deal, I guess. So we've been experienced before.
I love it. Well, again, thank you so much, Matt. Listeners, for today, this has been Paul Wilson.
Justin Tyson.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Diesel Performance Podcast 2019. No, just kidding.